Hello, everybody, and welcome to take 3 of trying to start this podcast. Paul learned that if you click the X on a little window, it will actually shut it and end the podcast. And here we are.
Actually, it was a little red icon of a phone. And I said, I don't want to be on the phone. Then it quit.
Yep. And then, yeah. So anyways, here we are. It is Friday. It is a live show, and we are professionals at all accounts. And Paul, would you have guessed that the Xbox One X is the fastest selling pre-order Xbox ever?
I don't know how I feel about that one. I got to be honest. I'm not saying they're lying. I'm not saying that. I pointed out some tomfoolery the other day on Twitter where, I saw something in my feed where it says Microsoft confirms it is talking to Sony about this crossplay stuff, Minecraft in particular. And then the next headline down about the same story said Microsoft claims it is talking to Sony. And it was like, really? Claims? Like, I mean, really? You think they're lying about this? And so here we are 24 hours later, and I'm already being a hypocrite. So yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know I don't know. I mean, it seems I'm not saying impossible. Yeah. It seems unexpected, but yeah, they're saying it.
Because there's a couple different ways you can actually frame this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They said it was the fastest selling pre-order of the Xbox One, correct? Is that the terminology they use?
Of Xbox. The Xbox One X is the fastest selling Xbox pre-order. Yeah.
Yep. So to qualify that statement, they don't say this is the highest volume of pre-orders.
It doesn't say
right?
the best selling.
Right. It just says fastest, which means that when they turned it on, the pre-orders came in at the fastest rate. So
okay, you want to make it even worse?
Yeah.
Let's make it worse, because I can make this worse. I can make anything worse. That's my special gift. Let's pretend. I'm just going to use fake numbers because we don't know what the numbers are, but this will just illustrate the point. Let's say that the Xbox, the original Xbox, if they put it up for pre-order, I don't even remember if they did, but let's say they made 1,000 of them, and that 1,000 sold out in X number of days. Doesn't matter. Let's say 3 days, and then 2005 comes around, and Microsoft makes the Xbox 360 available for pre-order, and this time they make like 2,000 of them. And that thing sells out in like 3 days, same amount of time. Well, that you could make the case it's the fastest selling. Is more of them,
Yep.
And now the Xbox One X comes around, and they're like, okay, we're going to make 100 of them, and it's going to sell out in 25 minutes. Or let's say it sells out in 2 days. Actually, that's maybe a better example. So that is now the fastest selling pre-order, because whatever they made available for pre-order sold out in less time. That's speed.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't have anything to do with number, which I think is what you were getting at.
Yep.
And and I hate to be that cynical. I want to take what they say at face value, but man, it's hard not to be like, really? Like the 4K version of the 3rd gen of the same console is okay. I don't know.
Yeah. And if they wanted for us to truly take it at face value, there's a very simple way they could do this. They could just tell us the numbers. How many Xbox One sold in the first 3 days, how many Xbox One S's sold in the first 3 days, and how many Xbox One X's sold in the first 3 days.
Yeah, that would require 2 things. For that to be the metric they are in fact measuring, which we don't know, and I'm starting to think maybe that isn't the metric. And B, that would require for them to tell the truth. Well, I should say, to disclose more information than they want to disclose, and they are probably not disclosing for competitive reasons.
You're exactly right. Because the reason being, they can say, hey, look, we sold 25,000 Xbox One X's in the first 3 days, and then Sony will come out and say we sold 35,000 PS Pros in the same period.
Exactly. And that is not what you want to hear right now. I mean, can you imagine submarining the Xbox One X right before it came out of it? What kind of a console maker would ever do that? Okay.
Yep.
I used the word submarine, by the way. That was the joke. Okay, so just insiders will understand.
Speaking of submarines, you started playing the new Call of Duty beta? Is your wife still your wife?
She's used to this now. In fact, several years ago, my wife got laid off from whatever company she was working at, and she was already at that point kind of deriving like a big chunk of her income from side work anyway. And so she's like, "I'm going to work from home like you do," And I was like, "Oh, like, like really?" And because my fear was like, my wife will now be able to see how little I actually work every day, and that will institute some changes, But I actually do. I mean, I work a lot, but I also play video games a lot, and she is resigned to it, I think is the way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an embarrassment, frankly.
Yeah, but how is the beta though? Like, is it good?
It is good. It's I still don't think that World War II is like a long-term strategy for for a Call of Duty. I sort of feel like they're going to have to go back to some kind of Modern Warfare stuff that maybe that has the legs to keep going for a long period of time or whatever. If what they did was a revolving series of games that were like World War II, Modern Warfare, and like the Black Ops style stuff, I would be very happy with that. I'm curious what the reaction is going to be to the lack of some of the more modern features that some of the newer games had, including the running on the walls thing, which a lot of people don't really like. But honestly, when it's done correctly, like it was in Black Ops 3, it's actually pretty sweet. So it looks great. It's World War. At the beginning of the game, you're like, oh my god, it's Call of Duty 2 all over again. It's very similar, beautiful looking. I think I've only seen 3 maps, and I'm not sure. There's only a limited selection of maps, but they're beautiful. And this is on the PlayStation 4, by the way.
Yeah.
Because the Xbox One pre-order, what do you call it, private beta, is September 1st, which must be exactly 1 week from today. Because we're always second-rate citizens with Call of Duty now, and goddamn you for that. But anywho, yeah, I'm trying it on the PlayStation. It looks beautiful.
Well, good. I'll be curious to see how this one plays out. The last couple have been falling kind of flat, so this is a pretty big departure.
Yeah, there's some weird milestones because I've played every single one of these games and I love them all in some way. But Black Ops 3 is one of the better multiplayer games, but it is the very first Call of Duty I never completed the single player campaign. I just couldn't have cared less. Like the game before that, I think, was Ghosts, and Ghosts was the last kind of traditional Call of Duty. And I actually thought the multiplayer on that was fantastic. In fact, it still has some of the best maps I think they've ever had. But I did complete the single player, but I was just like kind of like, who cares? Like you just go to to get to the end. It's like, who cares, And then Infinite Warfare, I don't care for the multiplayer at all, and I cannot. At the beginning, the game starts off pretty great, actually, the single player, but I never finished that one either. And so what I've been playing for the past 9 months or whatever is Modern Warfare Remastered, which remains one of the best Call of Duty games ever made. It's fantastic. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they fix this, or how. I don't know. I don't know what their plan is.
Yeah. Oh well, we will find out.
Yep.
I will tell you that if you do ever get bored of that game, this one.
Oh, so I talked to my son about this game, by the way. He's been playing it all week. In fact, I can't hold up my screen and show this to you, but I have a Google Wi-Fi app that, among other things, monitors data usage on the network by machine. And I took a screenshot. I'll send it to you later. It's actually pretty classic. You can see maybe like 9 devices on it, and all of them have like these little like usage thing, like really tiny. And then this is one that goes all the way across the screen and it says Mark. And him and his cousin have been down in the cellar, like literally locked in the cellar all week because he's going back to school tomorrow. And that's what they've been playing. I went downstairs with the picture of the thing. I said, "Do you notice anything on the graph that sticks out? Is there one thing that is not like the other things?" And he's like, "Sorry," but anyway, it's okay. But I was looking at that game, and I got to say, he's got I don't know what's the chipset in your. What do you have now? What do you have on your computer right now? 1080.
My
GTX
980
whatever.
I got a 980 Ti.
Okay, so he has like a 1070. And he actually, I was watching him, he was saying, or no, he wasn't saying, I saw it. It said something like, it wasn't that fast. It was something like 35, 40 frames a second or something. And he was telling me it wasn't optimized very well and that most games he plays get tremendous frame, like stupid, like 300, whatever. But I was looking at that game and I mean, it's it's I don't even know what Resi was playing it at, but it's gorgeous. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is a really nice looking game.
Yep, and it's a lot of fun. They're working on different varieties, and I think they're working on a new map as well. But
They need
it's
small maps. I think they need maps you can get in and out of. Because one of the problems, I haven't played it, but I'm watching him play. Like, if I understand this correctly, if you get killed, like in other words, you jet in and you find a weapon and you're running from building to building, maybe 25 minutes go by, you haven't seen a single human being, and then you get killed. Is your game over? Yeah. See, oh boy, that's tough. That's really tough.
You're in a bit of control of it though. So it's a huge open world. And what you can do is, if you want like that fast kind of action, so you are in a plane and you can see the other players jump out. And if you see a whole bunch of people jump out, you just follow them and you can see them parachute down and you can land in a city. Like, once you play it a few times, you kind of realize like where the hot spots are. And so you always try to jump out and you're there and then get into it. Like the last game I played, I think I had 4 kills and then died in like 15 minutes. But it is possible that if you jump out in the middle of Kansas, and you're in the wheat fields, you're out there for a while.
I feel like there's a tremendous opportunity with this game. I felt this in the past, as long ago as maybe even like Doom or Quake or something. But this game particularly, because the way you jump out onto the map and you can kind of see it, that there's a really neat opportunity for them to let people make maps that are real world locations, right? So you can imagine like a college campus, they make the college, and then the people at the college are all playing like a private game together on that thing. And like how awesome that would be for those people, because they know this place in real life, and that knowledge would actually help them make their way around the map.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of build this game out. Right now, it's still pretty early in development. They've got a long way to go, and that's why your son was saying it's not optimized, because that's not what they're focused on. They're still building out features and just trying to get this thing launched. And so it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. I think it's going to be one of those things that sticks around for a while.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. A couple other things here. And so I was kind of talking about this on Twitter, and I didn't really bring it up here, but Microsoft Teams still does not have guest access.
But it's coming soon. I don't understand the problem. Brad, it's coming. They said it was coming soon.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be there by the end of June. I can tell you, based on some insiders, that there is a very, very small group of public testers who now have access to the Teams, or the guest access on Teams, but it is not widely deployed yet.
So this is so you can bring in people who are not working at your company and have conversations and sharing or whatever with outsiders.
Yep.
It's like the opposite of building a wall, Brad.
Yeah, no, it really is.
It is.
And so one other point, usually because I like to take this product and throw manure all over it, I will say that since using the new Skype desktop app, the preview stuff, I kind of like it.
Sorry, say a little louder. Do we need subtitles for this part of the show?
I kind of like it. It's not perfect, and it is far from perfect, but compared to the old stuff, this one I think is actually okay. I'm not too concerned. Now, granted, this is not the new modern app. So
what makes it better, or what makes it okay, I should say?
So here's what it is. I have a monitor dedicated to what's TweetDeck, where TweetDeck is running all day, and it takes up, I would say, 80% of the screen. And the other 20% is Skype. It's just permanently open dock next to it. And that dock experience in the width that I have it set is superior than what I had with the older app.
So just so we know what we're talking about here, the older app you were using was the desktop app, not the UWP app. Correct. And were you running that in single window mode or with multiple windows?
Single window.
Single window. Okay, because that's the only way this new one works, right? It's sort of like the UWP app.
Yep.
I can't wrap my head around single window. Like, I have a huge problem with that. But I'm going to have to, right? Because unfortunately, that's the way the world's going. Yeah. Well, that's too bad, Paul, because guess what's happening?
Yeah, you don't really get a vote in this anymore. I think single window is the future. And
I think you're right.
So there you go. One other thing, I don't know when this is gonna roll out on the site, but we've gotten this request a few times, and I talked to Tim and some of the other powers that be, and I think we're gonna make this change on the site that when we publish a blog or a podcast, so either First Ring Daily or the Sam's Report, it's actually gonna flow through the blog roll as well as living inside that podcast widget that's on the main page. We've gotten this several times over the year, and
what's the issue there, that they just kind of disappear? Is that the problem?
No, it's just people don't. Well, one person pointed out, actually somewhat correctly, on mobile that they never see them, and so they don't know to check. And basically, what it's going to do is just going to flow through like a regular blog post, but it will also live in that player as well. So
okay, so if we do this, it might make sense to make the player just the player and not have the other stuff on the side. I'm sorry, I should say to have just like the latest one. Maybe not. We shouldn't design the site live on the podcast. Yeah, the issue, of course, the issue is the site is not just multi-column, which is always a problem. So when you go to mobile, you just got like the single column, and you have to figure out like the hierarchy or stuff. But in this case, there's like, it's not embedded literally, but it's sort of like this thing embedded into the middle of the blog roll on the front page. Yeah. Yep. We'll get it right eventually.
Yep. A lot of good comments this week, actually. And so I'll just kind of dive in here. And I wrote up a post earlier this week about should I buy an Xbox One X? I'm still highly on the fence about this. But Jacob Bierce wrote an actually really nice comment. He said, I immediately pre-ordered the Xbox One X for 3 main reasons. 4K and HDR. He says, I'm upgrading from an original Xbox One. So he's now getting that type of an experience. The simplicity, he says, I used to play games on the PC, but still do sometimes on the console. But on a console, it's just so much more convenient. With PC, I often have to run into bugs, running third-party apps and other stuff. With a console, it just kind of works. And he said it's just relaxing. He says, when I get home from the office, I don't really want to sit down and stare at another computer monitor. So
yeah. I kind of like just having the two things separate. You know, it's kind of a weird thing. And I feel this way about, you know, when you think about convergence devices like 2-in-1 tablets, it can be like a tablet and a laptop or whatever. All things being equal, I kind of like having those things be separate, you know, consumption and work. And so when I have a laptop or whatever, it's all my work stuff. I don't put movies on it. I don't put music on it. You know, it's just for work. And there's kind of a nice context shift when you have something dedicated to this thing and then something dedicated to this other thing. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Next comment comes from Skane2600, and this is on the Microsoft needs to clean up the App Store again, because there are a bunch of apps that basically allowed you to download any kind of pirated content you want with minimal fuss. He says, this suggestion that Microsoft merely claims to review apps rather than actually doing so in all cases. Otherwise, how could these apps have ever made their way into the store in the first place?
Yeah,
he's exactly right.
Yep, it's embarrassing.
No, it really is. I mean, when the description of the app says download the latest Hollywood movies the day they're released in the theater,
maybe that could have tipped someone off in the app approval area.
They're not really trying to hide what this one is doing. And then the last one comes from Ghostwriter on Paul's post, the Chrome for the Enterprise. And he says, so it begins. It won't be next month or next year, but Google will likely start taking significant parts of the enterprise away from Microsoft in time. Companies don't need heavyweight, expensive Windows boxes to run most web apps, and Chrome OS is the way. It's way more secure and doesn't have all the legacy baggage that Windows does. Game on.
Yeah. This is a tough one for me because, you know, I covered IT and enterprise computing for 15 years-ish at Windows IT Pro. And one of the things that always amazed me, and it continues to this day, but a new version of Windows would come along. Microsoft and or some group of PC makers would say that we've seen much bigger interest from the enterprise than we've seen from previous releases, and we think this one's going to deploy really quick. And then the same story would play out every single time, and meaning that they would never deploy anything, like they would just stick with what they had. And I always kind of wondered about that. And when you talk to people in the field, like people actually do this stuff for a living, they really do give a crap by and large. You know, they want things to be better for users. They want to be on modern technology. They want to be proactive and not reactive and all that stuff. But I think the reality of that situation is so difficult that it always ends up being easier for these bigger companies just to kind of stick with what works and not screw around with it. And I look at this Chromebook thing, and I know this drives some people crazy, but I do see what this person is describing, that this thing is, it is an answer for these companies where the machine cost, the replacement cost of the machines is much lower. The simplicity of the management is much better. And the updating thing is it's so much less onerous. It's like it doesn't exist. Microsoft, just within the scope of Windows 10, has made updating so terrible that they're almost contributing to the demise of the platform and enabling something like Chrome to maybe get an audience that it wouldn't have otherwise. I know. I know you could be someone in maybe a Western European country or somewhere where you don't see Chromebooks out in the world. And to be fair, I actually don't see them out in the world here either. But we know they're there. Schools, businesses now, and in homes, right? And those types of people aren't necessarily carting them around on planes and stuff. So maybe you don't see them. But yeah, this is real. It's like, do you watch the Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay, so this will make sense to people who watch the Game of Thrones. In the Game of Thrones, what you have is a bunch of families who are fighting. They're at war for the throne, and but there's another threat to the north. These ice white things that are coming down, and there are people who know they exist and they're real, and they're going to destroy everybody, and they need everyone to get together to fight this one thing. But nobody believes they're real, and they're like Chromebooks. Like I think in the world, a lot of people are like, I don't think these things are real. I know that they technically exist. I don't see them as a threat. I don't see them in the world. How could they be a threat? And they are a threat. And yeah, I feel like it's a really strange thing for me, because the more strident I get about it, the more I feel people pushing back.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I already know the answer to this. It makes you wonder if Microsoft would ever just kick out an OS like that. And well, they did. It was the mobile, but
right. And geez, they could almost solve this problem, right? I talk a lot about Windows 10s and the mistakes Microsoft's made with Windows 10. If they, you have to think, like, what's more important to Microsoft? Is Windows license sales really that important to Microsoft? I don't think so. Not compared to things like Office 365 and et cetera, et cetera. So I think you make the compromise on the Windows side and let Chrome run on that thing, and let Chrome have the browser market share. That's fine. It doesn't bring any direct money anyway. What you want to do, though, is convince those companies to stick with Office 365. That's the real battle. And by focusing too much on the dumbness, which is this Windows 10s thing, I think they're losing track of the real story here. So we'll see. Ignite's coming up, and we'll see how the next year goes. But I think this is already happening. I think this could snowball.
Yeah. What I keep wondering too is, I don't know how you feel about this, but I felt like Windows 10s was kind of rushed. They made this announcement and it's coming or whatever, and there's not really anything too much different other than it's locked. I wonder if we will eventually see them start ripping components out from behind the scenes, saying, okay, here's Windows 10s. The front end premise won't change, but behind the scenes, they're just going to start gutting and trying to get down to like Chromebook style OS.
Right. I mean, Windows is componentized, right? I mean, they've done it. You can see it on server with things like Server Core and Nano Server, whatever. They do have that capability. The problem is, I think for client side, there's probably so many dependencies in the Win32 world. I mean, even UWP requires .NET and Win32 really underneath. I'm curious how much they could take away. But yeah, Sun was on top of this stuff in the 1990s. Remember, the network is the computer. They were pushing thin clients back in the day when no one was ready for that. And frankly, the broadband speeds weren't fast enough to support it. But all that stuff is possible now. And we're all used to constant connectivity with our phones. These lightweight OSs like iOS and Android and Chrome, I guess, are really viable. I mean, it's a new world.
It really is. And you got anything else for today, Paul? I know you got some boxes.
No, I never. What's that?
I know you got some boxes to unpack.
I should. Well, it's not really worth looking at, but I can show you this pile of crap. And this is just my office. It's kind of half unpacked. I guess that makes sense. We're going to be doing some of that every day, obviously, and then we have furniture and whatever. But yeah, this morning I closed on the house, so we actually own this place now. We've been staying here for a couple of days, squatting.
You're not squatting anymore?
Yeah, we're not squatting anymore. We're legit now. But yeah, we have all that work to do. So anyway, I meant to write up something about a new portable computer I got in yesterday, and because of all the stuff going on here, I didn't get to that. So I'll do that today. And like I said, I've got some series work to do, like the home tech stuff. So we'll get that done. So maybe today, between games of Call of Duty, I'll try to squeeze it in. Maybe. How about you, Brian?
No, not a whole lot. It's actually quite wonderful outside. I think I'm going to spend the rest of the day outside, maybe working, maybe not working.
Yeah.
But it's right now it is 73 degrees outside. That is perfect.
I woke up this morning. We had the windows open. It was really cool, and it was like 59. And I was like, yes, like 59, 60 at night, and then like 70, 75 during the day.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's my jam.
Yep.
That's my jam. Alrighty. Well, we will end it here today, guys. As always, thanks for tuning in. We do this Monday through Friday. Monday through Thursday shows are not live, but we do record them for or against our will every single day. And as always, have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you next week.